Hello and welcome to today's Wyoming Community Navigator program webinar. We are so glad you've joined us for today's presentation. My name is Mandy Bailey and I'm the Advising and Education Director for the Wyoming Community Navigator program. I'll be your facilitator today, working behind the scenes through the chat and question function of GoToWebinar to assist you the best I can with any technical difficulties or questions you might have. Currently, all microphones are in listen-only mode in order to minimize the background noise, but feel free to type your questions into the question function of GoToWebinar so they can be answered during the Q&A session at the end of this webinar. And you may want to monitor the chat. We'll be posting helpful links and information there as well. This webinar is being recorded and a link will be sent out to all participants about a day after its conclusion. The Wyoming Community Navigator program is funded by the the U.S. Small Business Administration and utilizes the Wyoming Entrepreneurial Support Network to reduce barriers all small businesses often face, including those owned by groups such as veterans, women, and those from rural communities and communities of color. The Wyoming Community Navigator program uses a hub and spoke model to pursue its goals. Through the collective efforts, the hub and spokes provide training, mentorship, access to capital, and access to other resources to help business owners build resiliency and ultimately be the driving force behind Wyoming's economic recovery. Today's webinar, Strategies to Set Your Business Up for Success, is presented by Coach Shaterial Starnes. The Starnes Group is a financial literacy organization that offers premier services to individuals, small business owners, not-for-profit agencies, and state and local governments. The Starnes Group empowers through education and training to build financial stability. Coach Shaterial Starnes is an author and publisher of Navigating the Credit Repair Maze, Top 10 Repair Tips, and Save $1,000 in 120 Days. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Coach Starnes.
Thank you, Mandy, for the warm introduction, and thank you, Nick. Thank both of you for having me. I am so excited about tonight because we're going to talk about strategies to set up your business for success. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we sure can.
Awesome. All right. Now, just so you know, this is a safe space, so if you have questions, please ask them and also put them in the chat. And Nick, if you want to put your screen up so I can see your folks, that would be great. I appreciate all of you. So we're going to jump right in. Today, our objectives are, we're going to talk about how do you create a legal business. One thing that I came across is that people have businesses and they've been operating them for years, but it's not set up legally. So you will have tips to actually enable you to set up your business legitimately if you have not. I also want to talk to you about common pitfalls that small business owners face and how to go about avoiding them. The next thing is that, are you bankable? There are specific things that banks want or need from you as a small business owner. So you will know the tools and you'll know exactly what they are needing so you can be bankable. Here's the deal. What I always tell clients is this: get ready so you don't have to be ready. If you already have these things in place, and then if you hit a situation where you do need to expand, you're prepared. I also want to talk about, we're going to talk about the negative stigmas that are around credit and loans. And we're going to talk about alternatives to access to capital, because there's other ways that you can access capital than the traditional ways. Before we move forward, I want us to talk about the decisions that we make. I am so proud of each and every one of you that you are either a business owner or you're deciding to become a business owner. Here's the deal with this, our economy and how things are going. Let's be honest, we need some type of side hustle or some type of business, even if we have a regular 9-to-5. So with that said, I want to talk to you about the 7th generation principle. Native American tribes believe that the decisions that you make today will impact your future generations, 7 generations into the future. To me, that is powerful. And what I tell people is this: whether or not you make a decision, you are still impacting your future generations. And this is so powerful to me. It resonates with me because my third great grandfather, they actually purchased 100 acres of land many years ago. And in turn, what he did is that he had other individuals to help him farm the land. My family has since turned that 100-acre farm into 500 acres. And it's one of the largest Black-owned farms in the state of Alabama. That is huge because it has had a significant impact on our family and that area. So be wise, be mindful of who you're aligning yourself with and the decisions that you are making today, specifically about your finances and your businesses, is going to have a future impact. Again, that's very powerful. I want us to sit back and think about this. What is your game plan? I know that many of you how many of you are business owners or either thinking about owning a business? You can raise your hand if you want. I love it. I love it. So let me ask you this question. What if you need to expand? Are you in a position now? And this is rhetorical. You don't have to answer me. If you have to expand, are you able to expand? Do you have the resources or the funds? What if you need equipment for your business? What about if you need additional staff? Do you have funds or money set aside to hire additional staff? What if you're growing at such a fast pace and you've outgrown your facility and you need a larger facility? What's your plan? What if an employee becomes ill? My brother-in-law, he owns a janitorial service and he had a stroke. Now, the stroke was, thank God, it wasn't very detrimental, but he still needed to take time off. But had he not had a plan in place and had funding and dependable staff, guess what? That business would have folded. All I'm saying is this: I want you to be thinking like chess. Think about your next moves. Even if you're not there, what do you plan to be? What can happen? And are you prepared? So the goal of this is to give you some tools and some resources to help you prepare to prepare your business. One of the things that I tell folks is that this requires strategy and patience. How many of us know that being a business owner is not for the faint of heart? It's probably one of the most challenging things that you're going to do, and it's like your baby. So let's set up your business legally. I'm going to take you through a journey. And we're going to go step by step. Some of you may already have these things in place. Some of you may already know them, and then you may not have these things. But what I'm trying to do is help you to be strategic so you can apply for grants and loans and things of that nature. So we're going to jump right in. Hold on. This. First thing is, select a business name and an address. Make sure that it's legally available. You need to check social media sites. You need to check domain names. You want to avoid legal challenges. And the reason I say this is that I have a friend of mine. She is actually owns her own marketing agency, and she was working with a young man that had a business. She helped him create his logo. He had a website. He spent thousands of dollars building this business. But guess what? He did not do his due diligence, and someone else already had that name legally. So he had to scrap everything that he did, lost all of that money, and literally start over. So that's why it's so important that we do our due diligence. Another thing is that, because he could have been sued. Another thing is that many of us have a home-based business. I always suggest that if you have a home-based business, consider having a virtual office. And what do I mean by that? there are where you can actually, instead of using your home address, you're using the address of a virtual office, because one, it looks more professional. And then if you are trying to apply for business credit or anything like that, you have a legal address for your business. It's not a home-based business, because those are things that they check. The next thing is secure a business phone number. So I've given you some resources that are some often very nominal. Make sure that you have a business phone number, and so you can keep your personal line and your business line separate. And these are some resources here. Register your business. If you incorporate, that's part of the process. If you're a sole proprietor, you will have to do it as a DBA, or meaning a doing business as. You're going to register with your Secretary of State. Now, depending on what state you're in, your state may have different requirements. So I would suggest also, not only when you're registering your business, if you're doing anything with food, anything like that, there are additional licenses that you may have to have, as well as insurance. As an example, if you're a real estate agent or you sell insurance, you would need errors and omissions insurance. Choose a registered agent. All legal entities are required to have one. This is a person or agency that will receive legal notices on your behalf. Now, keep in mind, if you have a virtual office, with that virtual office, the beauty of it is that you can they can receive legal documents for you, and they can also receive your mail. If you don't want to go there, they can actually scan it and fax your mail to you. They can throw away things and shred. So you have a lot of different options with virtual offices now. Create a business entity. There's several different options that you have as an LLC, S corp. I'm not going to go into detail about that for today's purposes, but if you are, you can also be a sole proprietor. Now, let me say this. There's been a huge push for people to get LLCs, and weigh your options. What industry are you in? You may not necessarily have to start out getting an LLC. You may be perfectly okay with being a sole proprietor. And then once you start building in your business and building up funds, you can transition to an LLC. So just weigh your options. And one of the things that I tell clients is that, again, what industry, what are you doing? If you are working, if you're a hairstylist, you might want to go ahead and get an LLC, because the reason being is that you are protecting your personal assets. And if someone sues you, they're suing your business and not your personal assets, because they can literally wipe you out if that's the case. If you have a business, make sure that you check with the state to make sure that you are in good standing. Are taxes, fees, are reports being filed? These are things that are critical when you have a business or getting ready to start one. Request an employee ID number. What is the EIN? An EIN is the IRS. This is the way that, and this is free, so this is not something that you should be paying for. The EIN is your social security number for your business. So when if you decide you want to apply for grants or loans, you don't have to apply for the loans in your business, in your personal, with your social security. You can actually use your employee ID number. And also for tax purposes, when you file your taxes, the IRS, you will use your EIN, your accountant, or whoever files your taxes, and then that's how the IRS will keep up with what business you owe. So you always want to make sure that you are doing that correctly. And let me say this is just a side note. If you have a business, because I see it all the time when I am doing consultations with clients, where they will have an accountant in their business and they have them write everything off. That is a no-no. I advise against that. And the reason being is that you never know where you might be the next year or what you might need. Keep in mind, folks, we're still in a pandemic. So I had a situation where a client is she's a business owner, worked with an accountant, and she allowed the accountant to write off all these different things in her business. But what happened is that the following year she needed some things, and because she was she had wrote off so many things, she didn't qualify for what she needed, even though she could afford it. Because again, the banks were looking at how she looked on paper and if she was able to make the payments. That's all they cared about. It didn't matter that she had the credit scores. She didn't have enough money. The next thing is that get any licenses and or permits that you may need. Sales tax, anything like that. There is also an organization called Procurement Technical Assistance Center. What I love about, and they're across the state. So if you Google Procurement Technical Assistance Center, it will enable you. They have they have individuals that work there, and they will help you to become certified in minority and women-owned businesses. How does this help you? And it's a free service, it's PTAC. The beauty of it is that you can utilize this, you can get these certifications, and you can start applying for government contracts. And the government buys everything. Open a business bank account. I cannot tell you how many folks missed out on the payment protection program, the EIDL, which is, these are funds, and often some of them was grants and some was loans that were forgivable because they did not have all of these things that I'm telling you in place. They had a business, but it was not legitimate, and they missed out on all of these funds. In fact, the SBA was giving away a targeted grant, and it was $15,000. Next is get a unique identity number. The unique identity number replaces the DUNS number. Here's the link for you to be able to apply for the unique identity number. Now, let me back up. If you already had a DUNS number, which is the number that will allow you to be able to work with the government and apply for certain types of grants, it will the system will automatically generate you a unique identity number. You do not have to do anything. However, if you are a new business owner, they did away with the DUNS number as of April the 4th. And they now you will click on this link, put in your information, and the system will automatically generate you a unique identity number. Okay. And again, this is how you're able to work with the government and apply for certain types of grants. On applications, I've seen where they've asked for your this number. Set up your books. This is another thing that I saw got a lot of people in trouble. They did not have their books in place. Now, let me say this. If you your funds are limited and you may not be able to handle like hire an accountant or a bookkeeper, you can use Wave. Wave is free. I use QuickBooks, and I'll be honest with you, I actually used to try to keep up with things in an Excel spreadsheet, and I thought I was doing a really good job, but I'm telling you, I was not. Because for one, I used a lot of different systems. I was using PayPal, I used Venmo, and so when you're using all of these different things, it's hard to keep up with. But if you have something like Wave or QuickBooks, which is a software that you can use for accounting, you can connect it to all of this and it feeds all of this information into it. You don't have to try to keep up with that. I recommend that even if you do not want to hire a bookkeeper or accountant or cannot afford it, let them set up your QuickBooks, let them set it up. That is an investment in your business. And trust me, it is going to make your life so much easier. Because when you start applying for grants and or any type of funding, you're going to need to readily have access to your financial statements. So make the investment. Create a website. Wix, GoDaddy, websites just for legitimacy purposes. Think about it like this. When you are researching someone or researching a product or a service, I should say, what's the first thing that you do? You go to their website. You look at reviews. So think about it like this. People will do the same for you. So it just adds another level. It's great for first impressions, and it adds like another level of legitimacy. Okay. And the reason I put in Fiverr, and it's not misspelled, it's Fiverr.com. The reason that I put that in there, and I have the hyperlink in the later in the presentation, I believe, is because you can go out and freelancers will actually create these things for you at a fraction of the cost. So you don't have to spend a lot of money. Register with online services. People need to see that you're registered with these different services. Now, let me make no mistake. Don't listen to this. You don't have to worry about trying to write out all this information. I have sent over a checklist, and all you would have to do, you'll have all of these things, and you just check them off as you go. Remember, some of you may already have some of these things, and some of you may not. Register with social media accounts. Register your number with the 411 directory, Google and Yelp. Do these things. Now, after you did all of these things, you are legally set up. You have a legitimate business. Again, not saying that you did not have a business, but it was not legitimate. So now you can start applying for grants. You're going to start applying for the certifications that I just talked about, minority, woman-owned businesses. And the reason that I say that this is very critical is because the government does what is called set-asides. And they will set aside a percentage of contracts, and you can apply for them. Again, the government, so this is a state, local, and federal governments. And you can also, after you did all of these things, you've positioned yourself, because you're a legitimate business, that you can start applying for grants, business loans, and credit cards. So it really opens up the doors for a lot of different things. If anyone have any questions, make sure you drop them in the chat, or you can just speak up. You can just ask. Now that we have talked about setting up our business and making sure that it's legitimate, I have to take you through steps. What are some common obstacles faced by small business owners? Oops. Not knowing your target market. This is critical. So it's imperative that take some time. Again, you're trying to set your business up for success. Take some time and find out who your target market is. I'll use myself as an example. When I initially started my business, I was actually working with individuals and primarily doing credit repair. I loved helping people, but what happened is that it seems like I wanted more for people than they wanted for themselves. And in all honesty, I felt like an ambulance chaser. Now, again, this is my business, and this is how I support myself and my family. So that just wasn't quite working out. So what I did is that I changed my model. I still do the teaching and the coaching, but now what I do is I work with small not-for-profits. So they hire me to come in and do trainings. So I'm still doing the same thing. And I found out that my target market is not B2C, which is business to customer. Mine is B2B. So the not-for-profits are my client, and that's my target market. And I come in and I teach classes or workshops to their clients. It was a game changer, but I had to take some time to step back. Sometimes we got to slow down to speed up. I'm going to repeat that. Sometimes we got to slow down and to speed up. And so I challenge you that if you're facing any challenges or frustrations in your business, step back and see, like, is this my target market? Am I marketing in the right place? I was just sharing with Mandy that I was primarily marketing on Facebook and Instagram, but I was not getting any traction. But guess what? My target audience is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a gold mine. So again, it all goes back to you taking the time to find out your target market is, because this is your business, this is your livelihood, and this is your time. Would you want to be very strategic about who you're marketing to? Another common obstacle that is faced by small business owners is the lack of funds. Not knowing how to budget, which ultimately impacts their inability, prevents them from being able to scale. A lot of small business owners, and I know initially I did it in the beginning, we do what is called bootstrapping. We are using our funds from our 9 to 5, and or we might be getting funds from family members and friends. And it's nothing wrong with that. But are you really able to scale on bootstrapping? So what happens is that we're trying to establish a business and it's easy to burn through those funds. And then you're in a situation where I just talked about just a few slides ago, where if you're in a situation where you have to expand, you may have a t-shirt business. What if you are in a situation where, like, Juneteenth is coming up and you were tasked to make 1,000 t-shirts? Do you have the capacity and the bandwidth to be able to fulfill that order? So that's why I walked you through the steps of setting up your business legitimately, so you can go to a bank or a lending institution if necessary to be able to get funds to finance those things. Also, use your 9 to 5 to fund your business. Set aside money if you can, and when your typical 9 to 5, and then use those funds to finance your 9 to 5, to finance your business. What happens if we do not have these things in place is going to prevent us from scaling. And then what happens is, I've seen with a lot of small business owners, is that you start a business, but you're really just creating another job. Okay. Next is poor planning. If you don't, what is the old adage? If you don't plan, if you fail to plan, you're going to plan to fail. It's inevitable. So making sure that we set goals in our business, as well as creating a business plan. Something that I recommend is that set goals for your business. How much you want to make? Do you want to hire on another person? Do you want to hire a virtual assistant? And then each quarter you go back and you revisit, what did I do well? Where are some challenges that I was faced with? And then what am I going to do differently? So make it a habit to sit down quarterly, if not more often, to go through your goals and then see how you're meeting your goals. And if you're not, that's perfectly okay, because things are constantly evolving in your business. Things happen. But if you don't have a plan in place, it will definitely manifest in your business. Having a business plan is very important. With your business plan, you can always go back and tweak it. Again, my business plan when I initially started out is totally different. Or I wouldn't say totally different, but my market has changed. So I had to go back in and had to tweak some things. Another thing that I find with small business owners is that burnout. Burnout is huge. And I was in that position before with burnout when I was an ambulance chaser, so to speak. There are some things that you can do in your business that will position you to be able to work on the business. Instead of working on the business, you're working on the business instead of in the business. What do you mean by that, Coach Starnes? What I mean is this: automate. If you are in a situation or you have clients and you're constantly sending out the same information to them, that information could be whether it's a welcome, if it's a price list, or if it's whatever type of service or business that you're offering, a contract, place that in a put that in where you could actually send it out automatically. Automate. You can go on Fiverr.com, and that's the hyperlink that I spoke about earlier. And Fiverr have people that will set up your CRM for you. They will, you can have someone to help you with your website. You can have someone to create business cards, marketing materials, very inexpensively, where your business will look polished. But another thing is that I recommend is hiring a virtual assistant. Virtual assistant, mine has given me so much of my time back because I wore so many hats as a solopreneur in my business. And let's be honest, we're not masters at everything. So hiring a virtual assistant can be very helpful and give you back your time. Now, I know you're probably saying like, oh, I can't afford a virtual assistant. Here's the deal. I work with a company, and a lot of virtual assistants, you may pay, you're paying about $8 an hour. So what if you hired that virtual assistant to work, let's say 5 or 10 hours a week, and they handle all of your social media and your marketing, and they were able to take that off of your hands. You know how much time I used to spend putting posts or creating posts on Facebook and Instagram? It was insane because I didn't really know what I was doing. Your virtual assistant can also do prospecting for you. They can make phone calls, send out emails to potential clients. So you see where I'm going? It's really giving you an opportunity to get your time back so you can work on the business instead of in the business. And $8 an hour is not bad at all. If you think about, you may spend that more than that on lunch. So this is how I like to put things in perspective for clients. If you eat out 5 days a week, you're probably spending about $10 or more each time you eat out. What if you cut back and on eating out, and then you take that same money and then use it to hire a virtual assistant? Just a suggestion. Also, many small business owners do not anticipate risk. And unfortunately, because of that, they are not able to pivot. I'm going to give you a prime example. During the pandemic, I had 3 contracts. And because they were in person, I lost all of those contracts because people weren't meeting. Well, what happened is that I had to pivot. I had to do something different because the world had changed at that point. Everybody was impacted by the pandemic, but I could either wallow in that or try to figure out my next move. And that's when I decided to do things virtually. So think about the risk that comes with the territory of the business that you're in. There's so much information out here on the internet, on Google, TikTok, so much information. So if you already have an idea of some of the challenges that you may face, that will make it easier for you to pivot. Prime example, a buddy of mine has a photography business. And during the pandemic, she was very concerned about her business and how it would impact her. So what she did is that she started taking pictures of families on their porch, in their yard. So she was still social distancing, and she was still able to generate income in her business. Same concept, but just a different strategy or a different path to get there. So again, be able to anticipate risk because, again, somebody may get ill, or someone, you may lose a contract, like in my situation. What will you do? Are you in a position to be able to bounce back? There are some common myths about loans. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. Some common myths about loans. Let me move this way. One is that you need perfect credit. That's not the case. You do not need perfect credit. Also, that credit and business debt is bad. Let me say that credit is not good or bad. It's all about how you manage it. And I want to talk to you specifically about leverage. Say, for instance, if you were in a situation where your books were not good, your accounting system, you do not have an accounting system in place, but it may cost you $2,000 to get everything set up and get everything in order. However, you might be able to have access to a grant or a loan that's $10,000. So I say all that to say is that if you look at credit as being bad, or that's what you've been taught or what you've heard, that's not the case. You can actually use that as leverage. Take that $2,000, invest, but you're able to get $10,000 that you could utilize for your business. Again, we're still in the midst of a pandemic, and it's better for you to be in a position where you can access funds. You may not ever use it. And as a financial coach, I'm not a strong supporter of people getting in debt, but I do know that you can use it as leverage and protect your cash flow. So if you have if you're looking at credit as bad, let's look at it from a different perspective, because it's not good or bad. You can actually use it to your advantage. Especially, think of it this way. If you have business credit, you're already purchasing these things anyway for your business with your personal funds. Now you could take those same things that you have to purchase anyway for your business, but purchase it through business credit, protecting your cash flow, and use it as leverage, because you have to and then you're building your business credit score. So it's like my granny says, it's always more than one way to skin a cat. There's some myths that small businesses can't apply for loans. That's not true. And there's so many, there's banks. I actually partner with a lot of banks and smaller banks that are more willing to work with individuals or small businesses. Also, that banks are your only source of funding. They're not. We're going to talk about some alternative sources of funding, but the SBA also has funds as well. Credit unions. A lot of times your interest rates are lower at credit unions. And the beauty of it, my business bank account is at a credit union. I already have a relationship there. So it was good. So I looked at it as like, okay, I have a relationship with the bankers here. So let me use this as leverage, because having a relationship is critical. You need to have a relationship with your business banker. And startup businesses can't receive a loan. That's not true as well. I have banks that I work with that that work with startup businesses, and that turnaround times are lengthy. That is not the case as well. I have one bank that I work with, and it's they have a loan that you can get up to $25,000, and they'll turn it around in 7 to 10 business days. So again, I wanted to dispel some myths around business loans. The next thing is that we talked a little bit about loans. Are you bankable? Are you bankable? Here's the deal. Banks are gonna want to know, if before they lend you any money, they're gonna want to know, will you pay them back? I've been meeting with banks, because what we're trying to do is, there is a lot of barriers that minority business owners are facing when they go into banks. credit scores, and things of that sort. So after meeting with them, that's what enabled me to come up with what makes you bankable. They are going to want 2 years of personal and or business tax returns, profit and loss statements, balance sheets. Most want a minimum credit score of 680. Again, depends on the bank, but this is pretty much out of the gate. And what they're wanting, banks really look at your personal credit score. So what I tell folks is that there's some information on the internet that says you can get business credit and have a poor personal credit score. That is true, but they are leaving out a key ingredient. What they're not sharing with you on social media is that you're limited to the types of cards that you can get and loans that you can get. And what I mean by that is that you can only receive non-cash cards, meaning that if you have a line of credit, you can only use it at that company. You cannot use it anywhere else. So that's what they're not telling you. It is imperative that if you do have challenged credit, that you work on your personal credit, because banks are going to want to see that. They'll need a copy of your driver's license, bank statements, your articles of an organization. That is something that you will get with your LLC, a tax ID letter. And again, start building relationships with your bankers. If you have a business bank account, or if you do not have, if you have a business bank account, and if you do not know your business banker, if they do not know, you do not have a relationship with them, they're not asking you questions, they're not trying to help you or giving you advice on how to navigate things at their bank, that is not where your money needs to be. Because relationships are going to be critical. And let me tell you why. Again, I'm meeting with bankers. Let me tell you why they're critical. Because you need someone that will advocate on your behalf if you walked into a bank and you were trying to apply for a business loan or a business credit card or a line of credit. And if you have that relationship with them that you've already built and they're asking you questions, what do you need to do? How can I help you? Then that they're going to advocate on your behalf so you can get those funds. Again, I cannot stress the importance of relationships. In fact, our son was about 8, and my husband and I took him to our bank, the credit union that I spoke of, and we introduced him to the branch manager. And he talked to him on his level about banks, accounts, savings, and one of the things that he talked about was relationships. It's never too early for you to expose, if you have children or nieces and nephews, to expose them as well, because this is critical. I want to talk to you a little bit about personal credit versus business credit, with some of the differences and also some of the similarities, because it all goes hand in hand when you are looking at strategies to build your business. Both of them report to credit bureaus. Your business credit reports to Dun and Bradstreet, Equifax Business, and Experian Business. Those are some of the top ones. Your personal, as you know, reports to TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. Now, there's different sides of the house. So Equifax and Experian for personal, but Equifax Business and Experian Business is also on the business side. And you will have a credit score for your business. Your business credit report uses your employee ID number. I just gave you a hyperlink for that if you do not have one, whereas your personal credit uses your social security number. So your EIN is basically your social security number for your business. If you have multiple businesses, you can have a separate EIN for all of your businesses. So why is that important? If you had a business and it was disrupted during the pandemic, you could have received funding from the government and you had 3 businesses from all 3. Now, if you're a sole proprietor, you will use that EIN for all of those businesses. Your personal credit score uses what is called a FICO score, with the highest being about 850. But on the business credit side, it scores things differently. And one example that I want to use is that with your business credit, oftentimes you can get larger amounts of business credit at lower rates. And with a personal credit, say for instance, if you have a business credit card, okay? And the difference is that if you max out your personal credit card, meaning that you use most of it, and you do not pay it in full that month, your score is going to drop. Whereas on the business credit side, if you use that score and you pay it within that period of time, whether it's 45 or 90 days or however it's, or that line of credit, if it's how it's set up, you're not going to be penalized. So there's some significant differences and some advantages to having business credit. What is business credit? In a nutshell, all it is it's an opportunity for your business to qualify using creditors and suppliers and other organizations. And they look at your credit scores just to determine whether or not they're going to extend you the line of credit or approve your business, give you a business loan. That's it. I speak a lot about business credit because a lot of times people do not know about it and do not know the impact that they have. You can, in your business credit, you can build your properties in your business name. You can get vehicles, equipment for your business in your business name. Again, these are things that you're already paying for on the personal side, but you can use it in business credit and it can be protected under your organization if anything happens, meaning that no one can come and take it. So there are a lot of advantages to it. It's important because this is what banks and lenders and suppliers, what they look at. They look at your business credit score and they want to decide, they can determine whether or not you're credit worthy. It allows you to build a great, if you have a strong business credit score, it's going to create a safety net for your business. And it allows you or enables you to gain funding. Here's the deal. No one could have ever predicted the pandemic and what happened. But isn't it not advantageous for us to be ahead of the game and have a game plan? If you had a line of credit right now, or if you had a line of credit that was $25,000 or $30,000 during the pandemic, think about how that could have impacted you positively. These are some of the benefits. Keeping things separate. You separate your business from your personal finances. You can preserve your cash flow. Remember, you're putting things on the business credit card, the business line of credit. You're making those charges and those purchases anyway. So you're protecting your cash flow. What does that mean? So say for it, I had a buddy of mine owned a large janitorial service. And at one point, he was making over $1 million a year. And he was securing these large government contracts, but he did not have business credit. So this is what happened. He was securing these large contracts, but it was the government. They paid, but he had to shell out money on the front end. So what happened is that when the contracts did pay, he was literally robbing Peter to pay Paul. And ultimately, this led to this demise of his business because he did not have access to funds. And he says all the time, Sharia, what you're doing is important because if I had known that, I would have had business credit and I would have been able to salvage my business because I would have been able to protect my cash flow and not burn through my cash. I could have charged things because I knew the money was coming in and then paid off the business lines of credit. You are also protecting your personal credit. And I just gave you an example about how to use credit as leverage. The example that I use with taking care of your books, and then because you have your books in order, now you can apply for grants and other things. And oftentimes you get better terms, rates, and larger lines of credit with business credit. Again, strategy to help you with your business. These are some reasons that applications are denied. They can't verify your information with the Secretary of State. Remember I talked about the 411 directory, not listed in the 411 directory. I'm not saying that your application will be denied because of this, but it can be. Not being in business for a long time. Some clients, depending on some lenders, want you to be in business for a certain period of time. Others, not so much. They cannot verify your business name. Your EIN, your business name do not match. Had a situation where I was speaking to some veterans, and one of the vets, she had a business previously, and she had a tax EIN associated with that business. She actually started another business, but used the same EIN, but with a different business name. So she applied for a grant, and she asked me, do what she think that she will receive that grant. My response to her was that, well, they check those things. So what potentially is going to happen is that they will look at your EIN and in your application, but they're going to see that a different business name is associated with it other than the business name that you have on the application. And more than likely, you're probably going to be denied. Also, if your business is not in good standing with the Secretary of State, make sure you pay any filing fees, any taxes, or any type of fees that are owed, because this can put you in a situation where your application is denied. Because again, you never know when you might need access to capital. I want to talk to you a little bit about alternative funding opportunities. PayPal have what is called loan builder and working capital. So this is an alternative if you need access to funds for your business. If you are using PayPal, if you are using Square, you can have access to these funding opportunities. Loan Builder is a short-term business loan. You get up to $500,000. It's interest-free. It's a prepay, you repay the loan amount plus like a predetermined fee. On the other hand, working capital, you can get anywhere from, $1,000 to up to $125,000. It's based on your PayPal account and your history, and you'll pay back a fixed fee. What they do is they will pull the funds out of your PayPal account. And also, with the working capital, you can pay it every 90 days. Percentage. They want to see that you're paying on it. Square has a product as well, and Square, you pay it back daily. So say for instance, if your income or if your income that particular day is very low, they're going to take out a smaller percentage. The next day, if it's higher, they'll take out a little bit higher. But again, you're paying them back. All I suggest is that you look at the terms and conditions and look at the rates, because I find that a lot of times when people do different types of financing, whether it's their mortgage, vehicles, or what have you, they do not look at the fine print. Look at what the interest rates are and then weigh your options. If it's something short term and you know you have an opportunity coming in and that will be easily paid back, and it's something that's that's actually going to take place, and you don't have funds coming in, this may be an option for you. Also, your banks and or credit unions, they have what are called secured savings loans, meaning that you give them, just like the business, Wells Fargo secured business credit card, you give them funds, and then in turn, they use your money and give you a line of credit or a business card. Now, the Secure Savings Loan and the Wells Fargo business credit card, they report to the business credit bureaus. So it's going to report on your credit report, in turn helping you build business credit. Kabbage also has another source of funding, and they also have online checking accounts. So you have some different resources to help you navigate through this process. Also, another thing is that if you're needing access to funding, and I'm talking about funding quite a bit because that's one of the major problems that I see, or obstacles that small business owners struggle with. They do not have access to capital. So that's why I'm spending some time on that, just to let people know that you do have there are some alternatives and you do have some resources. If you have a 680 credit score or better, you can actually go into most banks and or credit unions and get a business credit card. You won't necessarily need to have a credit history, and may not even have to necessarily have a very little revenue and no collateral, meaning that you don't have to have a co-sign or anything like that. They're looking at your personal credit. Remember, I talked to you about earlier about personal credit, it being important. What banks are looking at and what lending institutions are looking at, they look at how you manage your personal finances. So if you, in their minds, if you have a challenge managing your personal finances, you're going to have a challenge with managing your business. So they look at it hand in hand. Does anyone have any questions about strategies to impact your business? Does anyone have any questions?
I'm not seeing any questions in our chat. Do you have some steps? Let's say someone has business credit and they have kind of negatively impacted that. Do you have steps for helping to turn that ship around?
Absolutely. What the first thing that they can do is they can go to nav.com. nav.com, and they need to look at their business credit reports, and they need to see which credit report that derogatory information is reporting on. Once they find out if that's that derogatory information, first let's make sure that it's correct or not. So, business credit and personal credit, business credit is not regulated the same as personal credit. There are things on the personal credit side that is regulated. So if there's negative information or information reported incorrectly, you can dispute it based on like a Fair Credit Reporting Act, and it's easily removed. So what will take place now is that look on your credit report, see if the information, if it's incorrect, then you would have to contact that business bureau, and you have to draft a letter and contact and send that information over and let them know that this information is not reporting correctly, and send it to them.
Okay.
And if it is reporting correctly, and say for instance, if you have a business credit card or something like that, because judgments, all those things report on bankruptcies, things like that report on your business credit as well. If it's a situation where you have like let's just use an example of a business credit card and you haven't been paying on it, what you would need to do is remedy that situation and start paying on it, just like on the personal side. Pay it down. See if it's closed. If it's still open, you want to just pay down the balance. Contact them and work something out. And if you need me to send addresses for the business credit bureaus, and kind of like give you a step-by-step of how to step-by-step of what to do, let me know, and then I can email, and then you can distribute that to your folks.
Okay, thank you so much for that. We appreciate that.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, thank you, Coach Starnes. We
Thank you.
appreciate you being here so much and all of the valuable information that you have given to us. And then I believe that concludes today's webinar. I'd like to thank everyone for participating, and please join us on July 7th for our next webinar. We're going to cover key strategic factors in business planning using the business model canvas. So please join us at that date as well. And so thank you, everyone, and have a good rest of your evening.
Thank you. Enjoy your evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you.